And welcome to day 2 of the National Restaurant Show. We have an exciting kickoff to our educational program for the day here at the Beverage Room stage. Many of you have probably noticed this in your operations, but there has been an exciting shift in the value of wellness in our customers. So we brought in somebody who is, I think, in front of this quite a bit and can talk a little bit about it, but Joshua James is a bartender, so he's one of us. He's going to talk about the shift that he is seeing in the marketplace at Ocean Beach Cafe, but really kind of dialing into some of the products that are recently to market or not quite to market yet. He can talk about the benefits and the response that he's getting from consumers out in California. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Joshua James, Ocean Beach Cafe, to talk about exciting shifts in the world of non-alcoholic beverages. Joshua, welcome.
Checking it 1, 2, and we're live. This is amazing. My name is Joshua James. I have Ocean Beach Cafe. It's in San Francisco. It's known as one of the first non-alcoholic bars and bottle shops in the country. There was like 3 of us in dry January of 2021. But before that, I had managed a lot of bars. I'm originally from Hawaii, and I bartended a bunch of places there. Then I went to LA, I was in Alaska, I did San Francisco, and then I was in New York City for a couple years. And then I went to North Carolina, and then I needed to stop drinking at like late 37 because it just hit a little bit different during that time. And that's actually one of the reasons why there's kind of a perfect storm as to why this whole non-alcoholic beverage thing that you guys have been hearing about, I'm guessing all of you kind of know that there's like a non-alcoholic beverage thing going on, right? I also know that you guys do not know what is really going on in this industry, because you could think that it was niche, but it's not, because society-wide, people are just cutting back on drinking. And big alcohol knows this, and that's why you're seeing all of these other beverages that are coming out. All the big brands are like, oh my goodness, Gen Z isn't even drinking right now. Like, what are we going to do? So they're all pivoting for it. So today I want to share some super valuable information about all these things. And I'm going to show you like some of my favorite stuff. So Ben Smuck was over here last week. He was like, oh yeah, I'll get your stuff. Don't worry about it. I'm just going to go out there and get that stuff that you requested. And then he gets back to me a couple days later and he's like, oh my goodness, like I can't find any of that stuff out here. And I was like, I know, like that's what I'm doing here today, is I want to show you the stuff that I'm drinking right now. And then we're going to be talking about the things that I think we could be drinking in 2 or 3 years from now. But where it all started in 2021 was there was a few brands out there, and they were kind of trying to copy the alcohol world. So non-alc whiskeys and tequilas and gins. Obviously, non-alcoholic beer was a lot easier to do. And I didn't even carry any non-alcoholic wines in my first like 3 or 4 months because I didn't find anything that I thought was good enough to go on my shelf. And then later on, stuff like Oddbird came out, and this stuff is terroir-driven, bone-dry, minerality, nice bubbles. And this came out in, I think, probably later in 2022. And this was when things started to get really good, because the non-alcoholic wine is like extremely difficult to make because you're taking like 12 to 14% alcohol out of the bottle. And what comes out of the machine that does that isn't necessarily so palatable, but some folks have figured it out. And if you guys afterwards want to come up here and get some samples, this one's nice and cold. I have a Prima Pave that's also from Italy I was his first account, and now these are like some of the top 3 wine brands right now.
It's just good.
It was around this time that I want to take a sip of wine so I could like collect myself and not be so nervous, because there's a lot of people here. But this is a huge dream of mine, because this information that I'm going to share with you shortly is stuff that I talk about every single day for 3.5 years straight. Ocean Beach Cafe, San Francisco's non-alcoholic bar and bottle shop, was my first restaurant. It was my first cafe. And I called it Ocean Beach Cafe because I wanted to lure people in with coffee and sandwiches in a tourist destination right by the beach. If I had called it like niche, a non-alcoholic bar in San Francisco, I think I probably would have done like a third of the revenue. But it was like, backing up a little bit, late 2019, I took a year off drinking because I definitely needed to. And I was like, alcohol was like so much a part of my life. And I was like, if I remove alcohol from my life, what is going to fill that void? Let's find out. So late 2019, come December of 2020, I had Ocean Beach Cafe and the lease to it because I had no hangovers and because I wasn't drunk. And that was kind of a testament to how much the brain can heal and how productive you can really be. And I was, one of the things that happened around 6 months in is I started shooting videos on YouTube and Instagram as Josh the Non-Alcoholic. And I was like, since I had geeked out on liquor, beer, and wine for 22 years, when I stopped drinking, I was like, I'm going to go see what's out there in the non-alcoholic beverage world and geek out on that stuff. And so I could see that there were a few brands out there, and I just started making videos on YouTube and videos on Instagram, and I'd never done that before, and I was kind of enjoying myself. And then about 30 videos in, I walked into this deli that was permanently closing in the heart of COVID. It was late September of 2020. And I went there to get a cup of coffee, and the owner was sitting in the dining room, and he heard me talking, and he was like, within the first minute, he was like, hey, do you want to buy the place? And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, how much? He was like, $50,000. And I was like, really? Like for everything? He's like, yeah, it's turnkey. Everything works. I was actively getting out of the food and beverage industry at that point. I was selling an item on Amazon. I wanted to get out of the food and beverage industry. But he threw that out there, and I was like, I'll sit down with him. So I was like, you mind if I sit down? He's like, sure. So we talked for about 20 minutes, and I left that conversation. I went back out to the beach, and I got on GoDaddy.com, and I looked at OceanBeachCafe.com, and it was like, green light, it's available. And I was like, damn, like I don't want to bartend again, but I'll build a non-alcoholic bar and bottle shop in San Francisco. And I was firing on all cylinders in my brain because I was about 8 months into not drinking, and I was like, all right, there's got to be something for a Native American alcoholic who wants to open a non-alcoholic bar in San Francisco during COVID. There's got to be something. So I got on my computer for like 12, 14 hours a day, and I was like, look for grants and subsidies and lending and CDFIs, and all of them were like, no. I was like, come on, no, this is coming. Like, this is the next big thing. Like, non-alcoholic beverages, they're booming right now. Like, you guys got to believe me. And they're like, no. You have like horrible credit, and you have like $2,000 in your bank account, and it's COVID. No. And I was like, no, I can get it. And 3 months later, I was on the week where I was going to give up, and then a friend from Hawaii was like, Josh, I saw your crowdfunding campaign. What do you need? I was like, I need $20,000. And she's like, I got that. I was like, sweet. So December, the money deposited. I gave that guy not $50,000. It was a lot less than that. And then it was on. We opened up January 22nd of 2021, and I've been like working my ass off ever since then, except for about 4 months ago. I have an amazing operator, and my whole dream, like I was saying, was to be here to get to talk to you about these things today. So in 2021, it was like non-alc whiskeys, non-alc beers. What can we do to act like the alcohol world? And honestly, those products kind of suck. I'm gonna be bartender today. I'm just gonna be like non-alcoholic whiskeys and mezcals and even gins. Like, there's some that are pretty good, but that was all we had back in the day. But then in 2022, it started shifting into things that were more herbal and bitter and undersweet and interesting. Because as bartenders, we want things that are inspiring us. And the stuff that was in the big distributors' books for bar managers to try just weren't inspiring them. They were like non-alc whiskey, like, what am I drinking? Or like it was a distillate that was just water and with not a lot of flavor. And it was just like, okay, at least there's an option. And what I will say about that is there were things that were not inspiring the bartenders as much on one side, but at the same time, I could take one of those bottles. Let's say it's one of these bottles that it seems like I'm talking smack on. I'm just saying that they weren't inspiring bartenders, but at the same time, I could take that same bottle and I can make you a bespoke cocktail, and I can do this thing and this activity, and put in my fresh juices and put in my little sprig and shake that up and make you an amazing drink. And people are like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like I stopped drinking, or I cut back on drinking. So thank you for making this drink for me. So that bottle is also very powerful because it gave us other choices that did not exist. And that's an interesting concept too, because there's over 500 brands that have come out. And they weren't brands that were there before in any kind of category. Like, for example, when there was a big tequila boom and people were like got all into tequila had always been there. But it all of a sudden got popular and people really started geeking out on it. Maybe you could see the same thing for rum or sherry's. But this stuff, this is a completely new situation. And there are so many people that don't even know that they desire this and want this until they learn that it is a possibility. So that's what I'm here to show you guys today. We're going to be making some drinks today. And I brought some of my favorite things, non-alcoholic wine. I'll start there really quick. It's the number one thing that brings people into my non-alcoholic bar and bottle shop. It's the number one thing we talk about, that we sample, that has this interest. It's also kind of generational. I'll go into a little bit more of that a little bit later, where there's Gen X and boomers, there's millennials, and there's Gen Z, and they all have very different drink preferences. But millennials, Gen X, boomers, where's that non-alcoholic wine? And everybody that has gone out to Bevmo and Total Wine and tried to get this wine, they come in and they say, do you have any good non-alcoholic wine? And it's like, I only carry the best stuff that I found out there. And I've like managed a bunch of wine bars, worked at a lot of fancy cocktail bars. I'm only bringing in the good stuff. They're like, oh my God, thank you. Cause like I shopped online. Really tough place to find good non-alc wine. Or I went to Bevmo and Total Wine and it's like, also very tough. They're not being picky about what they're bringing in, and it's really hard to find really good non-alc wine. And so the brands that started doing it, these machines in Europe, I swear they're just exceptional and totally different processes of de-alcoholizing wine. If you guys want to know how it's done, there's a few different ways, and one of them is reverse osmosis, and that's what makes this bottle really special. Is it takes about 2.5 months to essentially filter out the alcohol in some type of way and actually get it down to like the alcohol-free designation where there is no trace amounts of alcohol. Or there's vacuum distillation, which is super popular, where you're going to take this wine, you're going to put it in a big machine, you're going to suck all the air out, and the boiling point of alcohol when it's in a vacuum is like 75 or 80 degrees. So you're not actually cooking it, but you are vaporizing it off. It's just in that process of vaporizing it off where you lose a lot of stuff that we like in the flavor of wine. A lot of the aromatics, a lot of the volatiles, they get missing, and that's why it's so hard. But some machines are better than others that I have found. And just to give you hope, just to let you guys all know that there is really good non-alc wine out there. But when I was talking about how Gen Z, for example, never really had those wine experiences that maybe you guys have, which was like pairing food with wine and date nights where that was just some of these moments, and people want to get back to that. And that's why they come into my shop, like visibly excited, like, oh my God, like I've been wanting to come here for so long. I read about you 2 years ago. We've had like over 70 articles written about us. And so people know that we're out there, but we're in kind of a far out location by the beach. So it takes a while for them to get there. But when they do, and this is one of the main points that I want to share with you guys, is that when people come in, they come in visibly excited. And then when they're there, they're so curious, and then we're like giving them samples, or we're making them cocktails in a social setting in like really pretty glasses. And it's like, you can see it on them and you can feel it in the room that everybody is so happy and excited. And I'm doing this in a hospitality environment, and they're sitting down, and I want the whole world to know that that's happening, to know what it feels like in that room, because the frequency of alcohol is not in the room, but the frequency of straight up excitement is absolutely in the room with all the curiosity and trying all of these new things. So this isn't This isn't a sober cafe. This isn't a sober room. Most of the people that buy this stuff actually do drink alcohol. And they're coming in because they think that it might help them drink less if they found some things that they like. And it actually does. And the reason is the time of day or the time of week that we drink alcohol is kind of patternistic, generally speaking. If you put something in the place of that ritual, in the place of that pattern, like, let's say you get off work and you crack a beer and you watch TV and you have that moment, you're like, oh, I'm winding down. You crack it. It's just the sound. It's the cold can in your hand. Flip on the TV. You drink. You're like, oh, this is a thing. Your whole body is involved because that is the time of the day when you wind down. The alcohol hasn't even hit your system yet, and your entire system is involved in winding down and relaxing because of the pattern and the ritual, and that's your happy time. If you put a let's say that it's an IPA drinker, you put a craft non-alcoholic IPA in that same place and time, what do you think is going to happen? He's going to sit down, he's going to crack the beer, he's going to drink it, and this is his happy time, and the whole body is involved. It actually works. How you drink is very different from how the next person drinks, but it's really interesting to think of it like that, because now that you know that really desirable things exist and like those kinds of things have happened, even your brain and your mindset has changed a little bit, and that kind of information just brings more wellness into people's lives. I'm not here to say stop drinking. I drink sometimes myself. It's just, I love sharing the information because I do believe that it brings more wellness into people's lives. So we started on a little bit of wine. I'm going to make you guys a couple drinks. We have some drinks that they're going to be passing around here shortly as well. And I think the first one that we have is going to have some CBD in it. So if you're not into the CBDs, it is like super, super nano because you guys have super tiny samples and there's not much inside of this Aplos. I like the, but it's the Aplos Calm, and I just love this flavor so much because it has shiso, basil, and yuzu. And when shiso is in a drink, when you make a drink with this, it is a cocktail. This bottle is $45. So I'm going to say that this drink that I'm going to make next is not a mocktail. I use the word mocktail all the time, but not to describe the drinks that are on my cocktail menu. Because mocktails will be like the sugary, pineapple, juice-based, grenadine, mint, soda water drinks that we all know that have historically always been there. Mocktail is definitely the most important word for marketing and SEO and all of that stuff. I use it all the time, but this is a $16 drink. I mean, 18 depending, 20 depending on what city that you're in. Zero proof cocktails is nice. I like calling them non-alc cocktails. Non-alc kind of rolls off my tongue at this point, but I still think we have yet to figure out what the lexicon is actually going to be. When people buy this bottle, they're like, so what do I do with this? I'm going to show you guys something super quick. That is one of the easiest things. I mean, one of the easiest things you can do is mix it with seltzer, put some ice on it, and then make sure you put a little garnish. And you put a garnish on it, it makes it official. So I'm gonna make you guys a sour. That's the level 2. So with the sour, I'm gonna put 2 ounces of this Aplos. I'm using the Arise on this one, and this is another amazing flavor. And again, it ticks all the boxes for me because, for one, it's not trying to copy the alcohol world. That's something that's gonna be super inspiring, let's say, for a bartender. I like that it's not trying to mimic something and then honestly kind of missing the mark. I just put a little bit of aquafaba in there, and aquafaba is a really neat secret weapon. This is the chickpea water or the garbanzo beans. There's water around there. They also call it a vegan egg white. It's really nice to have at a non-alcoholic bar because it's going to give you viscosity. It's going to give you a bit of a foam cap, the presentation, the texture on the lips, the whole thing. Aquafaba is a nice thing, a nice thing to have around. If you're making it at home, just make sure you make hummus after. Just make it your hummus night and your cocktail night. And then I put a little bit of rich simple syrup, again, viscosity. I like a rich simple syrup because I'm not putting as much water in there. It's more of a potent sugar, but at the same time, I'm using under a half ounce of this because I don't want it to be too sweet. And then I'm gonna hit this with 3/4 lime. All right, I think I got everything in there. I got my thickening agent, I got my sweet, I got my sour. I just made a sour. We're gonna shake this up. Everybody's born with a natural shake. Like, this was my natural shake when I was born. But then I worked at some fancy bars and they were like, try like the double shake. And I was like, all right, I'll double shake it. Don't shake it too much though. It's a non-alcoholic cocktail. You don't want it to be too diluted. So check this out. This is gonna have a really cool cascading effect. One thing that's really neat to see is that when people leave my non-alcoholic bar, do you think any of them are leaving like, oh man, I wish there was alcohol in there? Guarantee it not. They are having a full-on experience, and that's what this is about. You see like the sober raves and the sober festivals that go on, and the big raves, people are just dancing and having a crazy time. You think they're leaving that like, oh man, but I wish there was alcohol in that? It's like, no, we just want to have a really good time. And this has a lot to do with that. This glass, holding it like while you're conversing. I see it every day, is that alcohol wasn't actually the main ingredient when it came to having an amazing time and socializing. This actually was a big one. And then does it taste good? Is it interesting? It's not a bunch of pineapple juice and grenadine and mint and soda water. It's so good. And it's actually doing something for me. This isn't, so it ticks all the boxes. It's not copying the alcohol world. It's got viscosity. It's got aromatics. Like this smells like a field in Mexico, agave flower stuff. And it has adaptogenic properties. Adaptogens. Been hearing that word a lot, right? And nootropics. What are adaptogens? They're the simple definitions are things that de-stress the body. There's well over 100 of them. I love that there's some kind of function to this beverage now. I could make you a mezcal margarita, a sour, the exact same way, and it's going to be a delicious cocktail. It's totally going to work the same way. But like, as a bartender and somebody who's been working with this stuff a lot for the last 4 years, like, I wanted to do something for me. This was the arise. This is something that's supposed to have an intention to maybe pick you up a little bit. The calm, something to wind you down a little bit. They had the CBD in there, and there's a whole bunch of brands that have come out that bartenders don't even know about, and I'm just like sitting over there in the corner of San Francisco, like, come on, bartenders, like, get down here. If every bartender came into my shop, I would sit them down and be like, just give me 3 minutes with them. If every bartender in the city did that, the whole landscape of desirable adult non-alcoholic options in San Francisco would be completely transformed. They literally just don't know that this stuff exists. And it's right here. It's these bootstrap brands that are putting all kinds of nootropics and adaptogens and they're so fun to work with. It's so inspiring for me to make drinks with this, and it's just like, I just wish they knew. So I just started a distribution company, and I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna start a distribution company. I got good staff. It's like the cafe's been successful. I can hire some more people. Like, I'm just gonna get distributor price and get it out to the people, because every bartender I know right now is like, I know I need non-alcoholic options, but like, I don't know what's good. The stuff I've tasted, I don't want to put it on my menu, It's San Francisco, just to let you guys know, there's a bunch of stuff out there. I think they just have some things that they're passing around right now. On the adaptogenic conversation, what you have in your hand right now is kind of a brand new product. This is my favorite thing right now. It sits at eye level, center of the shelf. It has mushrooms on the front of it, and there's 3 flavors. This is the orange one, that's ginger, but there's a blue mushroom one and there's a green mushroom one. One of them's mint and cucumber, and the other one is sage. But when you see 3 mushroom things like this sitting on a shelf, literally, when people walk into my shop, they just automatically go to this. Well, okay, what are the mushrooms? Mushrooms are hot right now. They're going to be hot for some time. Like the Rishis, not the psilocybin ones. You guys get that out of your head. I'm talking about Rishis, cordyceps, lion's mane, chaga, the kind of stuff that's good for the brain and body. And she made a ready-to-drink cocktail in a bottle. So this was just like ready to go. I like to shake it up a little bit because there's a bunch of this awesome sediment in the bottom of it. So you guys are going to get to taste this hopefully in a little bit. If for some reason you don't get some, let me know afterwards, and I'll make sure you guys get to try some. So about the different generations of what people are drinking. What I've seen so far is if there's like boomers and Gen X, it's kind of like, what kind of non-alcoholic whiskey you got there? I read in the Chronicle that you guys got non-alcoholic stuffs, and I was wondering what you got for whiskey. And I'm just like, yeah, I got one. It's great. I mean, I use it all the time because I pair it with other things. So this is not something necessarily that you're going to sip on. First big piece of information. And they're like, oh, okay. Maybe not the old fashions then. I was like, but you can make a sour with it. Some lime juice, some sugar, bonus points for aquafaba, 2 ounces of non-alc whiskey. Shake it up. It's a good drink. Don't get me wrong. It's a good drink. It's just when you're tasting it, it's not really tasting as much like whiskey. And then you got millennials. Millennials grew up eating and drinking. I'm an elder millennial. Thank you, Eliza Schlesinger, for that one. At 42 years of age, so I'm on the ceiling of it. And we grew up eating and drinking Negronis and Manhattan variations. And we like something that's interesting and undersweet and maybe something that's going to educate us about something. And we went out to cocktail bars and we wined and dined, and then we turned like 38 and the hangovers like hit at a whole nother level. And we were like, I don't want to feel that way anymore. We want more wellness in our lives. But we still want a really interesting drink. So they're looking for like the aperitifs, and they're looking for the adaptogenics and the nootropics. That's the millennials. Now, Gen Z, I think about this all the time. Like, what are they going to be drinking? And honestly, I don't even think the product has come out that is going to go viral for what Gen Z is drinking. But I can give you guys some glimpses of what I'm seeing out there. And I would say they're wondering, like, all right, how high is it going to get me? Like, how many milligrams is in there? And what kind of milligrams are we talking about? I don't know. I don't think that's fully decided yet. But the way that hemp-derived THC has come into the zeitgeist is the biggest thing since sliced non-alcoholic bread, I think. Hemp-derived THC, for those that are into cannabis, I can sell that. You can sell it outside of a dispensary. So I sell that at my cafe. I did not bring it in for about like 8 or 9 months. And then I did. And I was like, man, I guess I kind of wish I'd have done that sooner. I was just keeping it non-alcoholic and keeping it classy. But then I was like, now that I have brought it in and totally focused on low dose, I'm the 2 milligram guy. I every once in a while, I'm like 2 milligrams. I'm not a big cannabis guy. But 5 milligrams, 6 milligrams, I'm like in that realm. If you want more than 6 milligrams when you're sitting and having a social experience at my spot, order a second cocktail. So now I got people ordering second cocktails at my non-alcoholic bar, and I'll tell you right now, that is not a very easy thing to do because it is a novelty. People are showing up all the way out to Ocean Beach in San Francisco, and they'll be like, let's check this out. Oh my goodness, this drink is beautiful and it's so interesting. Okay, bye. It's like, business-wise, we don't have alcohol in there because in the activity of drinking an alcoholic drink, it's an activity where you're probably drinking 2. There's a whole percentage of people that drink 2. And then there's a whole percentage of people that drink 3 and 4 because your judgment is lapsed. So what do you do in a non-alcoholic bar? That business plan is super tricky. If you guys want to talk about that stuff, I can obviously talk about this stuff for days, but it's a really interesting business plan to open up a non-alcoholic bar. But I've got some I definitely have some pro tips for that. So as far as hemp-derived THC Delta 9, that is legal in a lot of places, I can now make cocktails with that because there's spirit bottles that look kind of like this. And there's spirit bottles that are right over there. In fact, the first brand that I brought in was Flora for the hemp-derived THC stuff. And he is right over there. So it's awesome to see him still here and doing that thing. Again, for those that are into the cannabis thing. Other things, other kinds of milligrams that I'm seeing is Kava is a big one right now. A Kava lounge is a really good example of a social space that's open during the evening that does not revolve around alcohol. How many places are out there that are open during the evening, you can go there to be social, and it doesn't revolve around alcohol? Please, we need like 6 to 8 places like that in San Francisco. They would fill up. Silicon Valley, tech people, they don't want to drink as much. They want to be focused. They want that extra 2% to be on point. Like, we need those spaces in Chicago and New York and Austin. It's just like people aren't ready to open up brick and mortars, and I totally get it. So if you know somebody, if you're interested in opening up a social space that doesn't revolve around alcohol, and even if it does have alcohol, cool, that's true inclusivity. Please come and talk to me, because we need those spaces in society. People are very interested in drinking less. And I love saying drinking less instead of not drinking or sober. That word kind of has stigma to it. I would love to share even more information with you guys. If you guys have any questions, I would love to answer them. If you guys even want some samples of wine, I'll probably be in and around here. And I think there is some other samples of the drink that I made here with the CBDs. It's going to be coming after they pass out this one. If you guys hang out for a little bit, I think we'll have, because we didn't have that first one come out, right? Did we? Oh, it went out. Okay. See, I was just like all focused on myself for the first 10 minutes. I didn't even see it. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't any more like super main points that I wanted to cover. I think the main ones were the non-alcoholic bar. That room is a place that is full of excitement and stoke. I want more places to have those couches and have the bar and the bartender doing their thing. There's so many people that have an interest that half of Gen Z isn't drinking. Like, let's give them a community space to hang out and do rad stuff. I think we're seeing a lot of that stuff kind of pop up. And this was a dream of mine. Like, I put it on a vision board like 6 months ago. I was like, I want to do public speaking. I want to tell people about these things. So I'm so glad that the room was full and we got to do this thing. Please come up to me if you guys have any questions. And thank you so much, you guys.
Thank you, guys.